So just to give you a little bit of a background in terms of where I'm coming from. I did the first study looking at the ketogenic diet in non-elite CrossFit athletes back in 2016, and that's when keto actually started to get really popular. And that's what actually brought me into the keto space initially.
Okay.
And well, that was 20. It was got published in 2017, but the study was from 2014 to 2016. And so that's what really got me down like the keto rabbit hole, adopted it for myself. Saw many benefits, a lot of the mental clarity benefits and the kind of less food focus and some things that really resonated with me for a while. And then I started to work with a lot of clients who were getting benefits as well.
Mhm.
But then over time, as I got through it, as I learned more, as I experimented more, I came to a place where I was actually ended up being very carb phobic
Yep.
after a while. And then I started to work with a lot of clients who got really great benefits from keto initially, and then they started to become more carb phobic. And so over time, realized that, like, this was no way to live, right? Like, people are fearing legitimate foods like sweet potatoes and fruit, which you should not be fearing, right? Those are not bad foods, right? And so that's what kind of brought me to this metabolic flexibility side of things and really trying to teach people what metabolic flexibility is, why it can be advantageous for a lot of people. And it's really just the ability, I know we'll dive into this, just the ability of your body to be efficient at the certain fuel sources that it's using for the activity that you're doing. So if you're sitting at your desk, just working throughout the day, like, you should really be relying on fat as your main fuel source because it's a low intensity, like no intensity activity.
Mhm.
And so obviously carbohydrates are important in some regards, but like, and when it comes to metabolic flexibility, if your body is metabolically flexible, you're able to basically switch between fuel sources, between our main fuel sources, carbs and fats, but do that in a way that is dependent on the type of activity you're doing. Like I said, low intensity, at your desk all day, you should be relying on fat as fuel to help with, mental focus, things like that, maybe even dipping into ketosis a little bit if that's your goal. Doesn't have to be. And then when you're doing like high intensity activities or you're lifting at the gym, carbohydrates are a fuel source that's necessary for that. And when I say necessary, I mean optimal. It actually isn't necessary. But if you want to get optimal results, it's probably beneficial, especially if you're training very heavily, to have some carbohydrates. And so my goal, especially with women, is to help them kind of find this balance between getting some benefits from potentially going into periods of ketosis, but not necessarily having to stay there forever or feeling like they need to stay there forever.